Hi, this is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. Man, oh man, I just cannot believe what we're seeing. Can you believe that we get an actual response from the Secret Service that says they can't find who dropped the cocaine? They can't find who dropped the cocaine. I mean, come on, people. I mean, maybe we should send them the game Clue, and because they already have the room, or at least one of four that they initially identified that it could have been in. I presume they know the room that was actually found in, as opposed to the trail that they gave us, which was a bunch of something was wrong, something was a lie. But so they should have the room. They have the thing, the cocaine. The only thing they don't have is the who. Now, if Roger Daltrey'd be there, had been in the White House, we might have had an answer on that. But we know he's not the who, so it's a different who. So who might it be? Who might it be? Well, first of all, let's just look at the story on this, because gosh, it's just unbelievable. This is the BBC. White House cocaine. U.S. Secret Service ends investigation. They end the investigation. Wow. Due to lack of physical evidence. Lack of physical evidence. Okay, you see this building right here, this big white building? You know what's all over that building? Cameras. You know what else is all over that building? Armed personnel who are supposed to be protecting the president and paying attention to what's going on. If you look over to the right here, that's where the west wing of the White House is. It's a little bit lower in elevation, but the west wing of the White House has this interesting thing: is if you're going to get into this building, first of all, if you're going to get into this building, you're going through at least two full magnetometer checks, at least two. And then, if you're going to get into this building, you have to then into the west wing where this cocaine was supposedly found. You have to then go to a not very nice person who's manning a desk and tell them, check in, give them your name, and let them know that you're there. And you've already been pre-cleared by Secret Service saying, oh yeah, this person's supposed to be on the grounds, because before you even got on the grounds, they have a list of people who are allowed to come in that day and at that time, because it's all scheduled. You don't just walk in. If you're me, you get to stop and get outside on 17th and State Street. You get to go through an entrance. Then you get to go through another where you check in with a Secret Service person. You give them your driver's license. Okay, they check and make sure you're the right person. By the way, Joe Biden doesn't believe in driver's licenses. Never mind. The point is, you're getting checked all on the way. So finally, you make it, and you're going into the West Wing, and you go in, and you have somebody there. You have Secret Service there. You wait. They take you upstairs. You wait again. Put your phones in the cubby hole upstairs. At least that's how it was during the Trump administration. And then you go and meet with whoever you're meeting with in the West Wing. That's if you're meeting with, at the time, a chief of staff, White House chief of staff. If it's a meeting where the president's going to be, there's some, you're going to be in that kind of, that's the process. It is impossible for somebody just to kind of wander in and have a bag of Coke on them and say, oh, well, oh man, I slipped it through the system here. I better drop it off here in the West Wing, so nobody catches me with it. You've already made it through security. So this is garbage. This is garbage. If these guys, here's the fact: if these guys really can't find who, due to lack of physical evidence, if the Secret Service truly cannot determine who is responsible for the coking of the White House, if they truly can't find that, every one of them needs to be fired. The people who let people in need to be fired. The people who were on duty at that point in time need to be fired. And the people who did the investigation need to be fired. Because I'm sorry, if the White House is that easily breached with a white powder in a baggie, if the White House is that easily breached with a white powder in a baggie, then that could have been ricin. It could have been anthrax. We could have had our entire executive branch wiped out, in a day, literally in a day. I mean, this was 2 offices from where the president is, where he works. In a day, we could have had the entire executive branch wiped out, at least all the elected people. You would still have cabinet officers that are dispersed around the DC, and it would have. It's inconceivable that they're telling the truth. It's inconceivable. And if they are telling the truth, there needs to be a wholesale change in how things are done at the White House in terms of inspections. All I know is every time I went there, they made you empty your pockets, turn them inside out. This was, they were pretty aggressive to make sure that you had everything that might be offensive, they could examine and look at. And they had drug sniffing dogs. Oh, I forgot about the drug sniffing dogs. Actually, they're explosive sniffing dogs. Maybe we need to add drug sniffing dogs. But they have an explosive sniffing dog. You have to walk through a little thing and stand there while an explosive sniffing dog sniffs at you. So it's it's inconceivable. It's absolutely inconceivable that they're telling the truth. So, and if they are, like I say, everybody needs to be fired, and they need to set up whole new procedures, because there's no way a white powder should be able to make it into the West Wing of the White House. None, zero, no excuse. This is their whole job is to protect the president. That in and of itself is a massive failure of their job. I don't care if it was flour. They cannot allow that to occur. And since they did, by their own admission, they have to revamp all procedures to deal with it. So let's go with what's the obvious thing, is that they're lying. That they know exactly who was there and whose cocaine it was, and that and in lying, they're protecting somebody from being exposed and having a problem. Now, the obvious suspect here is Joe Biden's son, Hunter. But the fact of the matter is, it could have been a lot of people. It could have been anybody who's walking through there. But they have cameras. They have cameras. They know the people who were hanging around and where they were in a certain time frame. If I was there, I would have had to sign in and provide them with all my information. You'd have 100 people. Let's say you have 200 people. Well, they got time. They got phone numbers. They have the ability to go and talk to people. And if it's staff, if it's internal staff from where it was found, you know what? You just do a lie detector test on anybody who was in the area. You force them all to go through a lie detector test. It's pretty straightforward. It really is pretty straightforward. And yet they didn't do it. They didn't seem to. So given the need to get this off the news, that the White House has been breached by white powder that could have been anthrax, and they're trying to kind of sweep it under the rug. The question now has to be a totally different question. I don't really care who had it. Don't care. I want to know why the Secret Service failed to detect it and then didn't have a system in place where they could find the person. I want them to have to admit that they lied. Okay? Because the alternative, if they did not lie, then all the security we put in around that White House is a joke. It's an absolute total joke, and that endangers the President of the United States, endangers anybody who goes in to meet with the President of the United States, and it endangers the first family. It's such a breach of responsibility. The Secret Service, you almost have to say we have to start from scratch if what they're saying is true. So, folks, make your own judgment on it. I didn't care if Hunter Biden had coke in the White House. Truthfully, I expect Hunter Biden to have coke in the White House. He's a cocaine addict. He's troubled. the stuff that he's done in relationship to his dad, I think that's all gonna come out in the wash. But if he had cocaine in the White House, um, that's almost feels more like a family tragedy than than something that's a public business. But if, as the Secret Service is saying, they don't know whose coke it was, and it was just laying around in the middle of, apparently in a room, and somehow got into the White House, pretty far in, pretty deep into the White House, and they don't know whose it is. Well, then we need to get to the bottom of where the security breaches were and close those holes, because we have enemies in the world who are dangerous. And if it's this easy to breach our security of the White House, I don't, what the heck are we doing? I'm going to look at some emails or some chats, but I just had to comment on this because it's just mind-boggling to me. Some things I can be mad about corruption. I can be mad about a lot of different things, but basic, they're either the lying or it's incompetence. And, I hope to hell they're lying, because if they're that incompetent, our nation has even more problems than I thought. Let's look at some of these things. Yeah, this is Jeff. You're right. They're trying to tell people is they never had any video of the person every inch of the most secure building ever walked into. Just so you think you're kidding. 100%, Jeff. You're right. They have video. They have video, and the fact that it was in a plastic bag and they can get fingerprints off a plastic bag is beyond. It doesn't make sense either. But they absolutely have video. They know who was in that room. They know when they found it, so they can have an approximate time of when it arrived. Even if they didn't see who dropped it, they have an approximate time of when it arrived. And you go and you round up everybody who was in that room, and you subject them to lie detector tests, if nothing else, and you you get to the bottom of it. I mean, it's just, the investigators are only covering, or there's one covering up for Biden. I'm going to just say the other alternative is, and I think it's, given some of the Secret Service scandals that have existed the last 10 years, you can't rule out that it was an agent's, that it was an agent who brought it in. I hate to throw that out there as a possibility, but once again, given the scandals that we've seen engulfing the Secret Service over the last decade, you can't rule that out. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I think we need. You're right. If we should just get Fred to come in with a magic mystery mobile, and Scooby and Shaggy. Of course, if Shaggy was on it, there might be some other baddies left around that would be a problem as well. But they're legal in DC, so maybe they won't be able to figure that out. Robert Costello, come on, man. As Joe Biden would say, they just tracked down a murderer on Long Island with a 10-year-old DNA. If they can't figure out who left it there, they can read her license plate from the satellites with all the cameras in the White House. Nobody's seen it was the scam. Yeah. Okay, I can't say any better than that. You're right. It's they have the capacity to pretty much read anything from the eyes in the skies. Not to mention, let's just be real. I've just been there, and so it's just, come on. No, like I say, it's not just covering up. It's who are they covering up for? But if the thing that Congress needs to do is take them at their word and say, okay, well, what security measures need to be taken to do this? And, and behind closed doors in a secure environment, have the security layout of the White House laid out there, so they can say, okay, you have cameras here, cameras here, cameras here. Where did you need a camera? Because this is, if the most secure building in America was that easily breached, we have big problems. Nothing is adding up. They knew who it was, probably in a different room. Well, Richard, that's the that's the thing that got me from the beginning is they came up with like 4 different locations where they supposedly found it. And in that instance, I kind of find it hard to believe that the first location wasn't the accurate one. But it was, and I don't remember what the first location was. I have to go back in time. But, the story kept changing on where they found it. And, this isn't like heat of war. You sit there and you have something happening and facts are changing. The Secret Service found a bag of cocaine. They evacuated the building. They evacuated the building because they didn't know what it was. They discovered it's cocaine. They let people back in the building. The place where they found it didn't change, but we got 4 different press reports on different places it might have been found. So, not to make too big a point of it, but this thing has smelled like a cover up from day one because they couldn't come clean. Sorry for the pun. Come clean with the facts of where it was found up front. And once again, I'm just going to end this at this because it irritates me. If the Secret Service cannot protect the President of the United States in a meaningful way, if as they contend, a baggie of cocaine was left on the premises by some unknown person, and they have no capacity to figure out who that was. If they conducted a thorough investigation in about 5 days and determined that they just couldn't find anything, that there's nothing to be done, there's no physical evidence, then then they need a complete revamp. And there has to be something done to make certain that our Secret Service is vested and charged with protecting the President of the United States, the White House, and the first family. That the Secret Service is, we need to do a scrubbing of it to ensure we have competent people there and that the security systems set up are functional and work. And I remember, I think if you think back during the Obama administration, I think it was like 2015, some guy jumped the fence in front of the White House, ran across the lawn, which is a long way, got into the portico, went through the front door of the White House. The Secret Service agent who was supposed to be on the front door on the inside wasn't there and was wandering around the inside of the White House before a Secret Service agent saw this person. There was no alarm set off. There were no people searching for this guy. Nobody noticed a guy jumping the fence and running into the front door of the White House. And a Secret Service agent comes across this guy who's not supposed to be there, wandering through the halls of the White House. A few steps, by the way, when you go in that front door, the steps to the residence are right to your left. And you just go up those steps and you are at the residence, literally right to your left. And so it's astonishing. Now, I'm probably going to be in trouble for telling that state secret that everybody who's ever been through the White House would know. But it is but the fact that there was that somebody in 2015 was able to do that and wasn't discovered until, a Secret Service agent happened upon them. And this was a person who, they didn't have the means to do harm, but they certainly had the ability to do harm. And they were crazy enough to jump the fence. That was in 2015. And at the time, we were saying people need to be fired over this. I have great respect for the Secret Service. They did a masterful job of protecting the White House when the Antifa thugs were trying to breach the White House every single day of at least the last 3 months of the Trump administration. And they did a phenomenal job of protecting the president under really adverse circumstances where they were overwhelmed. And I have great admiration for them. But I don't know what's going on here. And truthfully, they're probably covering up. But the fact of the matter is, um, somebody needs to be held accountable for this occurring. And the fact that they want to basically whitewash it to the public is, really is pretty inexcusable as well. And with that, I'm going to check out. We'll be back tomorrow. I think there's going to be some breaking news tomorrow on censorship. We have an interview scheduled at 4 p.m. If all goes well, it's on our schedule with Representative Tom McClintock, who is going to talk about the FBI director. He's going to talk about FISA warrants. He's going to talk about some things that are happening, hopefully on Capitol Hill, to try to do something about it.